Hello, this is Justin Williams with the Wolfpacker Podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by editor of the wolfpacker.com and fellow co-host Matt Carter. And today we're breaking down the NC State Wake Forest game this Saturday in Carter Finley Stadium. Another late kickoff for the Wolfpack, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Going to be on ACC Network if you can't make it out to Carter Finley Stadium. We've got number 21 Wake Forest coming to NC State, number 22 in the country as of the most recent and first college football playoff rankings this season. But before we break down this big matchup coming up on Saturday, some quick reminders for the listeners and viewers at home. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to us, wherever you're listening to us right now, if you listen in podcast form. Or maybe you're watching us on YouTube. If you're not, please come visit our YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel while you're at it, and check out this video. You can watch the whole podcast there and like the podcast, give the video a thumbs up, and drop a comment while you're at it. You can follow us on social media at the Wolfpacker on Twitter. You can follow me personally at Justin H. Will, although I don't know why I keep plugging that because I need to start tweeting again. I haven't tweeted much more of a lurker these days, but you can throw me a follow if you want. Maybe I will start tweeting again. Head over to the wolfpacker.com, by the way. That's why you're here. This is the Wolfpacker Podcast, but if you want more information beyond our the chats with Matt and I here, go to wolfpacker.com. Take advantage of a special deal now. For just $10, you can get premium subscription to the wolfpacker.com through the beginning of next football season. So that takes you to the end of August 2023. You're going to get premium NC State athletics news and information, recruiting buzz, unlocks access to the message board. So great content. And for just $10 for a better part of a year, it's a really great deal. So go to thewolfpacker.com and take advantage of it now. And last but very not least, go support our sponsor of the podcast, rogueshop.com. It's rogueshop.com. Go there for all of your premium CBD and Delta 8 products. They've got tinctures, they've got cartridges, they've got oils, they've got edibles, they've got lotions. They've got all kinds of great items over at rogueshop.com for all of your natural CBD and Delta 8 cannabis needs. Founded by a husband and wife. The husband is a disabled veteran that was turned on to natural cannabis products to help treat some of his sleep apnea or just inability to sleep at night. He was able to use it for some of his pain and anxiety and stress. Great with inflammation as well. So he founded this small business so that he could help others just like you live a healthier and happier life. So head over to rogueshop.com. If you support us, you can support us by going to rogueshop.com. And you can use their chat feature there if you want some guidance as to what products might help best suit your needs. You'll be talking to a real life human being in that chat feature, by the way, not some robot. So head over there now. It's rogueshop.com, ROGUE shop.com, and go support them because they have some really great products. Okay, Matt, let's talk about Wake Forest now. It's time for what seems to be the biggest game of the second half of the season. It's what it's shaping up to be. You've got number 21 in the country versus number 22. So on paper, you've got two evenly rated teams. Now Wake Forest comes into this game as the favorite, as we were talking about right before this podcast. The current line is Wake Forest by 4 points. I think it opened at about 3.5, Wake Forest, and then jumped up to 5.5 and has now crept back down. So Vegas likes the Demon Deacons by a little more than a field goal. Wake Forest coming off its biggest loss of the season last week, lost to Louisville 48-21 on the road. Now, disclaimer there, a lot of Wake Forest turnovers in that game. The third quarter, they were outscored 35-0. I think there was a couple pick sixes involved, Matt, one of which was a 90-yard return for a touchdown on Louisville's part. Two 14-point swings in a game. Really going to be hard to win that. I mean, I would love to know a stat of how many college football teams have won a game after throwing two pick sixes. I'm sure that number is a single digit, if greater than zero. So interesting loss. Wake Forest was ranked number 10 in the AP poll going into that game, and obviously highly regarded as, probably the second best team in the ACC behind Clemson after having that thriller double overtime game in Winston-Salem against the Tigers earlier on this season. But Wake Forest definitely fell in the rankings, and because of that loss, and now enters this game against the Wolfpack, and it's more of a coin flip game. So, the other important context here, Matt, is that NC State's going in this game without starting quarterback Devin Leary. As we know, the Wolfpack has had to go without him for the last several weeks. Bounced back from that bye week. Played Virginia Tech, played a terrible game for 40 minutes, was down 21-3 to the worst team in the ACC, but then enter true freshman quarterback MJ Morris, who led 3 touchdown drives and brought the Wolfpack back to win 22-21 in heroic fashion, and it has given this Wolfpack program new hope to finish out the season strong. So, Matt, do you see this as a coin flip game? Do you see a true favorite here? What's kind of your initial, inclination of this game?
I see a true favorite. I'm a little, I think home field plays into that a little bit. Look, if I strictly on paper, just strictly looking at the two teams, you would have to favor Wake Forest, I think, right? So I would go. I thought it was gonna be a little higher than. I think it's at 4.5 points right now. That kind of surprised me a little bit. Maybe some recency bias there with the whole Louisville game, but 6 turnovers in the third quarter. I think it was 8 turnovers in the game. That's not going to happen again, right? So if you're an NC State coach, I'm sure they were probably mad at what they were seeing, because they're wasting all these turnovers at Louisville. They're supposed to save some of this for us. They're having their WTF moment against Louisville. You want them to have that clunker against you. So, you're right. I don't think you put too much into that Wake Forest Louisville game. By the way, Louisville may be finding itself a little bit right now. This is another bummer if you're an NC State fan or a coach watching that game, now realizing you probably were hoping that would be a disheartened, uninterested Louisville team that you're facing at the end of the year. That may no longer be the case. So also have that aspect of it. But
you will be playing Louisville the week after they go to Clemson, so that helps.
Yeah. What if they beat Clemson?
That wouldn't help.
Yeah.
Although it still does physically wear you down to play Clemson.
Yeah.
Just look at NC State. Look at how the roster is dwindled after you play Clemson and Florida State.
But look, on paper, I think some people are overreacting a little bit to that Louisville loss for Wake Forest. I think there is unfairly Wake Forest kind of gets treated as, they're Wake Forest. Right, they don't get the respect because they're Wake Forest. The reality is they and NC State have probably been the 2 best teams in the ACC, not named, Clemson over the past 5-6 years. But because they're named Wake Forest, they don't get the benefit of that. So that's that. I don't think it's a great matchup on paper. But this is a strange rivalry. And particularly strange things have happened with games in Raleigh against these two teams that were not supposed to turn out the way they did. We always speak about how Winston-Salem's a house of horrors for NC State. It's not like Raleigh's been whatever you want, what's the opposite of a house of horrors? Justin, help me out.
A wonderland.
It's not like thank you. It's not like it's been a wonderland or a trip to the spa for Wake Forest or anything like that whenever they come to Raleigh. So
no, it's a very if you look at the track record of this rivalry in the past 15, 20 years, the home team typically wins.
Yeah, and sometimes in heartbreaking fashion. But the one time Wake Forest won a game in Raleigh that I can remember recently was the game where Jamie Newman was making his first start. They had kind of turned to Jamie Newman, and then they got NC State stopped on a fourth down that would have clinched the game, and went down the field and scored on a busted coverage with like 20, 30 seconds left. If NC State played that game 3 more times, they would have won all 3 of them. I think that's just the one game Wake Forest got them. So, look, under the lights, NC State's going to be motivated. I do see a path to victory, which we can probably talk about, but it's going to be hard. I make it sound like NC State should be a 3-touchdown underdog. I hear that. It's not like
I think you did. I think I would probably handicap this game at I think Wake Forest by a touchdown would just be a ideal spread because I think there's a 50% chance that Wake Forest wins this game rather comfortably just because it flexes its offensive muscle and NC State's not able to match that offensive rhythm that it found in the fourth quarter against Virginia Tech. Now, Wake Forest doesn't have a particularly strong defense. So, if NC State is able to carry on that momentum from what they got with MJ Morris under center in the fourth quarter, then who knows? Maybe NC State has its best offensive performance of the season and a full game. And maybe that defense is able to step up and limit Wake Forest to a manageable number that NC State's, able to make the plays at the end of the game to win the game. Now, I don't see a path for NC State to win this game comfortably. I think if NC State's going to win, it's going to be a 4-quarter fist fight. I think if there is a lopsided double-digit type difference outcome possibility, that it would be the Demon Deacons that would win in that fashion, just because we know how explosive their offense can be, and you combine the fact that they come into this game on a head-scratching 8-turnover performance. I would highly assume that this week ball security and Sam Hartman's decision making have been 2 very important areas of focus during practice this week. So it wouldn't shock me at all to see Wake Forest take great care of the football and limit turnover opportunities. Now, on the other hand, NC State, just from the eye test, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, so I don't know where NC State ranks nationally or in comparison to the ACC. Matt, maybe you can help me out with this and turnover margin and forcing turnovers. But I just know strictly from watching this NC State defense that there are several turnover opportunities per game. Now, NC State hasn't capitalized on many great opportunities. You think back to the Clemson game, you think back to, even the Syracuse game, other games in the past this season. But, this NC State defense is aggressive, and they pressure the quarterback, and they've got very athletic corners and defensive backs that are able to step up and make plays. So, it wouldn't surprise me to see NC State maybe be able to tilt this game by winning turnover margin. That has to be a point of emphasis for the Wolfpack going into this game. But, you think of the keys of this game, Matt, from the NC State perspective, it has to be MJ Morris, number one. How good is he going to look? Because I think that's the question the rest of the season. We know what we're getting with the NC State defense, and we kind of know what we're getting with the supporting cast of the NC State offense. So really, this team can go as far as MJ Morris can take him at this point. It's his team. He's got the keys to the car, and can he put together another great performance in what on paper looks like the biggest game remaining this season, other than maybe the UNC game on the road. But B would probably be the turnover margin, winning the turnover margin.
Yeah, and until that game, Wake Forest had lost 5 turnovers all year, so they more than doubled their output in one game. So it's not like Wake Forest is a turnover-prone team, and you would have to say that was kind of a fluky aberration, probably, as much as a sign of a problem to come. NC State is good at forcing turnovers. They are actually probably top 3rd in the country in forcing turnovers, but really good at interceptions. They're actually tied for 9th, second in the ACC in interceptions. You know who's first?
Uh, Louisville.
Yep. Exactly.
Now.
Exactly right.
Now.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it. They got 4 interceptions against Wake Forest to give them 14 on the year. NC State did not have an interception in the Virginia Tech game, and so they leaped NC State in interception for the season. So, I don't know if you can. It helped though. To your point, you're saying if you can win turnover margin against Wake Forest, that points that Wake Forest don't score because Wake Forest typically end drives with touchdowns. They're not a team that punches the football a lot. So you're looking at I'm trying to pull up the stats here. Just out of curiosity, got me curious how many times Wake Forest has punted the football this year. 30 punts. That's among the fewest in the country. That's tied for 86th in the country in punts this year. So it's not a team that punts the football a lot. So any possession that ends without points is huge in this game. And to that point, I think NC State's ability to control the clock, control time of possession. I know fans hate that because they immediately think, oh boy, here we go again. Slow it down, conservative offense, yada, yada, yada. I get that. It's not inspiring. But the less time Wake Forest is on the field, it means the less time Wake Forest has to pile up points and turn this into a shootout. You do cut your margin for error. That's where MJ Morris comes into play and why I agree. He's number one key to this game. If you're going to try that formula, which I suspect NC State might, then they got to score touchdowns, right? I mean, because you cut your margin for error. If you try that formula and don't score, you're really giving the other team a potential favor. Because if they do score, you just shorten the game up and give your opponent the edge. So you have to score. But Wake Forest is so good offensively. They're so good. There's one potential spot where I think NC State could do it if could really give them some problems. I think Wake Forest has had some issues with the offensive line. They do give up sacks. They're not necessarily a productive running the football in terms of yards per carry. And so if NC State can kind of win that battle up front, that might help. That would certainly help. But this is a Wake Forest team that in the last couple of years have been held under 30 points 3 times.
Yeah.
Total. By the way, they lost all 3. So, kind of a matter. They're 17-2 when they score 30 points or more. They're 0-3 when they score less than 30.
It's kind of like that Matt Rule stat with the Panthers where he was like 1-27 or something when the opponent scored 17 or more points.
Yeah.
Except this one's a lot more understandable.
Yeah.
If you can hold Wake Forest to less than 30, or fewer than 30.
It's so good. I mean, Sam Hartman is such a good quarterback. And then they got so many receivers. It's ridiculous. You wonder how Wake Forest could have piled up that many good receivers on a team. But they have. And they were that slow mess offense, which if you haven't seen it, basically it's like holding a play action in there for a couple extra seconds, and sometimes you hand the football off, sometimes you pull it back and throw. They just freeze the defense is what they're trying to do. They're just trying to freeze you. And freeze you enough, and all of a sudden their star receivers are breaking free 40 yards over your head. Or they have some tight end coming underneath that nobody accounted for, which seems to happen a lot against NC State. Or they cut you going back on everything, and we'll just hand the ball off. And next thing you know, the running back getting 15 yards on you. It's so difficult to defend. If any team can do it, it's NC State. But you're going to need some turnovers, and it would be better if you can get off the field and then keep them off the field.
Right, because you think about, Wake Forest's ability to score on a team like Clemson, who has a great defense, but in that game, Clemson's secondary was,
banged up,
and exposed. NC State secondary that it's going to present on Saturday is going to be far superior to what the Tigers were able to play out in Winston-Salem earlier this season. But yeah, I mean, another question for me, Matt, is if you're the offensive play caller, you got to start rolling out hot. We don't need to warm up in the first quarter and get things cooking and find NC State down 10 to start dialing up some explosive plays and taking some shots. In a game like Wake Forest, when you're going to probably have to score 30 points to win, you need to go ahead and assume that, Now, granted, you're going to get Demi Sumo back, theoretically. Hopefully. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, until we physically see it, we can't count on it. But ideally, you get Demi Sumo back, who has been the most explosive back for this NC State offense this year. And, if you can get him going, he can be explosive out of those screen plays and run plays. And I'm not saying completely abandon those. You want to sprinkle those in, but gotta let MJ cook. I think in this game, you can't let him roll out there on training wheels and expect him to beat a offensive juggernaut like a Wake Forest. So I'm very interested to see the game plan, because obviously there's been a lot of scrutiny, on this NC State offense all season, and I think it's a great opportunity, against a weaker defense in a game where you're going to have to put up points to, show that NC State's offense is capable of making explosive plays, because we saw it in the fourth quarter against Virginia Tech, and you got to credit Virginia Tech's defense to holding NC State to basically nothing in the first half of that game. You'd have to think that Virginia Tech's defense isn't too far off from Wake Forest, and maybe that and maybe Matt, like you said, maybe time of possession comes into play there, where you can kind of grind them down and then start dumping it on them like NC State did against Virginia Tech. But I think you just got to come out of the gate swinging. This isn't going to be a game that you win based on defense and ball control and just being the more disciplined. You're not going to beat Wake Forest by just simply being disciplined.
Yeah. Statistically, Virginia Tech is a better defense than Wake Forest. And look, Wake Forest is much improved on defense, but it's a caveat. They played a couple of really bad offenses. So they played 8 games this year. They played an FCS team in VMI. And they played 2 teams in Vanderbilt and Boston College that are among the worst offenses. They're in the triple digits in total yards per game nationally. So 3 of their 8 games were against really bad offenses. Obviously, Clemson put double overtime, but they still put up were closing in on 600 yards of offense in that game. Louisville got over 400. Liberty got over 400. Army got over 400. So there's nothing really special about the Wake Forest defense. They're not as bad as they were last year, but statistically, Virginia Tech has been stronger on defense. That is an interesting question you raised there. Do you come out swinging? Because if you do that, do you also risk getting yourself in a shootout quick with Wake? And is that the way you want to go? Or do you come out trying to establish a pace, establish a tempo of which, like you say, may not pay immediate dividends, but will wear down over time and prove to be the way to go? But the one big difference between Virginia Tech and Wake Forest, if you take that latter route, Virginia Tech had a very inept offense. What you saw from the third quarter was a total aberration, right? You had a busted coverage, and you had one corner got beat twice over the top. The other 3 quarters, I think Virginia Tech had 40 yards of offense total in the game. So that's not going to happen with Wake Forest. So,
no. Well, I don't think it has to be mutually exclusive. I mean, I don't think just because you're taking shots early and regularly throughout the game doesn't mean that you have to trade paint with Wake Forest. Because I don't think, I definitely don't think NC State's going to try to go for a shootout against Wake Forest. If you can get an early lead by taking an early risk, then you can start to play more of that ball control game. And then those, whenever you can get Wake Forest off the field without scoring any points, that's a huge win. And then you can start, trying to dink and dunk and get those first, multiple first down drives where you burn 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes off the clock. But in order to do that and successfully against Wake Forest, I think you got to be playing with a lead, and in order to do that, you got to take some shots. Yeah. So,
but
I think a little of both.
Yeah. The flip side of that, ironically, the teams that have done best this year against Wake Forest have run the football, and that's kind of the irony of the situation. Which it goes back to MJ Morris. All those teams, I can't speak for Liberty. I don't know Liberty's roster, and I'm be blunt with you. I'm not going to look it up either. So I don't know Liberty, but Louisville and Clemson both have a running threat at quarterback, and they both ran the ball very effectively on Wake Forest. MJ Morris is a running threat at quarterback. I think he can run the. When I went back and looked at the Virginia Tech film, there's a premium article where I broke down every throw MJ Morris had in the game. Ended up being pretty popular on the message board, so check it out if you haven't. But when I was breaking down the game, I felt like there were some runs that MJ Morris had where he missed yards, right? They could have been better runs, a little bit more if he was a little bit more decisive, maybe a little bit better vision on some of those runs. I felt like he left some yards out there running the football. But we know that he can be a threat in the QB run game. So it'd be interesting to see how they use that. And right, if Demi Sumo-Kwambe is back, that's a huge boost too. And the X factor in there, Wake Forest has an NFL caliber defensive end who's questionable for the game. He hurt his ankle. He's by far their best pass rusher. Rondell Bothroyd, I think is how you pronounce it. Last year had 16.5 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, including a sack against NC State. So, that the flip side of it is, his status could also be something to watch as well. But bless you, Justin Williams, for
thank you.
He's right in the middle of the podcast.
It happens.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of. It'll be interesting. I'm really curious to see what the offensive approach is. Are they going to come out? Look,
yeah.
I'm with you. They do their best when the quarterback gets in rhythm. The best way to get in rhythm is to go, be aggressive. But that might not be the best strategy if you're to beat Wake Forest. So how do you handle that? Because we can talk realistically defensively. There's only so much you can do against Wake Forest, and that's not an NC State issue. That whomever has played Wake Forest issue. Clemson, very good defense. Yeah, got beat up by Wake Forest. So, that's just the reality of it. Florida State, top 25 defense in the country. Clemson, 27th defensively in the country. None of those schools stopped Wake Forest, so you're not going to stop.
Well, the secondary is going to be so crucial for NC State. I mean, and it has been one of the stronger aspects of this defense. Now NC State's strength is obviously at linebacker, but how well can these guys cover and limit yards after catch against this, an explosive offense like this? It's going to be a big test. But NC State has not allowed any team to. Well, Clemson was the most this year, right, at 31 points.
Sounds about right. Yeah, Syracuse I think was 24. So yeah.
So I think that's a reasonable goal. Can you hold them under 31? I think that'd be a win.
Yep.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah. 30. Interestingly, if you look at offensive production, two of their worst games have been on the road. So they've only played 3 road games. Vanderbilt's terrible, but at Florida State, they won 31-21. They had 405 yards of offense. Averaged 4.76 yards a play. At Louisville, they had 402 yards of offense, 4.47 yards per play. That's their 2 lowest yards per play total this season. So there may be something too about getting them on the road versus having to play them in Winston-Salem. So that maybe gives you some slight, if you're looking for some slight advantages, that might be one.
Right, the fans can play. The fans can make a difference in this game. If you can make Carter Finley rock in a night game.
For 4 quarters, I understand. That's the preference, right? That would.
Yeah, I mean, if the Twitter conversations of NC State Twitter, which is like, what are we debating about here? Whether I think everybody's on the same side, right? Just do your best. But on NC State's end, also do your best to keep the fan base in the game for 4 quarters too. I think it's a 2-way street, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe don't go down 21-3 to Wake Forest, and I think the crowd will stay in it. So I think that's my advice for both sides. Fans, stay in the game, be loud, make a difference. It can make all the difference in the world. Make that Wake Forest offense earn everything, and same to the NC State team. But we'll be tuning in Saturday, big one. I'm ready for the post game reflections, man. This is an interesting game. I really have no idea what to expect, but I hope it's a competitive and hard fought game, because I think if NC State can at least hang with Wake Forest, even if it doesn't win, if it can just look impressive on offense and it can have flashes on defense, it can still give me a little bit more confidence for the rest of the season, because I think that 4th quarter personally gave me a lot of confidence, but I think we just need to see more of it from MJ Morris before we really have an idea of what realistic expectations for this NC State team are the rest of the way.
Yeah, no question. I think, look, the other thing too is Wake Forest had got a book on MJ Morris. We talked about that. Virginia Tech did not have a book on MJ Morris. Yeah, so a little bit is out there now on him. So we'll see how that holds up. Now that they're going to be scheming to defend MJ Morris specifically, and how much can the freshman handle?
Yeah.
That's at least it's a home crowd, and I guess that statistically they're not as tough defensively as Virginia Tech is. So,
look, State's got that home winning streak. I mean, Wake Forest has to. It's not it's not an easy game for Wake Forest. No.
So we'll see how it plays out. I agree with you. It's one of those games kind of hard to figure out how it's going to play out. You could see it playing out a number of ways. I do kind of agree with you, though. If it's lopsided, probably not good for NC State. I think NC State better off if it's a close game.
And lastly, full watch potentially. Best case scenarios. I think my main concern at this point is, Clemson's got to go take care of business on the road in South Bend this weekend.
Yeah,
they got to be 13-0 to get into the college football playoff. So
they do. I had no problem, by the way, with them being number 4. I think it goes back. No, I think it's the right move. I think that goes back to there's a lot of SEC love, obviously deserved. I still don't get why the Big Ten gets so much love from national media. Undeserved. They have done nothing to deserve the love they got. And I'm sorry to the Wolverines out there, but that is one crappy non-conference schedule they played. And the only halfway decent Big Ten team out there they may have played is Penn State. And Penn State hasn't beaten anybody either. They beat Auburn.
Who's not good.
Yeah. Didn't they just fire their coach this week?
Yeah,
oh,
they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So that's not really a good win. And then the other 2 games, they got beat by multiple scores at home to Ohio State, at Michigan. So are they really that good, Penn State? So
they got a number next to their name.
I guess.
They got the iconic uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
They look the part.
I give them that, but
I mean, yeah.
I bet at least Clemson beating Florida State, who, by the way, has beaten the number 10 team, LSU, in New Orleans. And they beat NC State, who, by the way, is ranked. They beat Syracuse, who, by the way, is ranked. They beat Wake Forest, who, by the way, is ranked. They get ready to play Notre Dame. Michigan's hanging their hat on Connecticut getting that fourth win. That's their best non-conference game. So, no problem at all with Clemson being number 4. And I think if they win out, they're definitely in. But
I think if they lose once, they're definitely out.
It'd be a tall order, very tall order.
You need absolute insanity.
Yeah.
You need like Michigan and Ohio State to both have a loss. You need anarchy in the SEC. You need Tennessee to lose like a random game. Yeah. Probably not gonna happen. So, State fans, as much as it sucks, kind of got to pull for the Tigers a little bit. At least as long as NC State keeps winning. If NC State loses maybe one more time, then you could probably start pulling against the Tigers again.
No, I think you still pull for Clemson. You want that college football playoff money.
Yeah, I don't know. As like a fan and I get it. It's good for the program, but like as a observer, it's like, do I really care about the money? No, I don't. I just care about watching my team and hoping they do their best. So, and hopefully getting to the best bowl possible, which is why we're kind of rooting for Clemson. But anyways, it's going to wrap up this podcast. I think we're ready to watch some football on Saturday, and then we will have some fresh new takes for you based on the results of that game. So, quick reminders before you tune out of this podcast: subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening to us, Apple, Spotify, Google Play. You can also watch us on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment while you're at it. Go support our great sponsor, rogueshop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com. rogueshop.com for all of your premium cannabis, CBD, and Delta-8 products. They've got tinctures, they've got oils, they've got cartridges, they've got edibles, they've got lotions, they've got all kinds of great products to help you with some of your troubles falling asleep at night, or stress and anxiety, pain and inflammation. All great things that can be helped by these great natural products. Founded by a husband and wife. It's a small business. The husband is a disabled veteran that was turned on to these natural products to help him with some of those symptoms, and it's changed his life for the better so much that he wanted to create this business so that he could help share these products with folks like you. So I think all of us out there at least experience one of those 3 symptoms, whether it's trouble sleeping from time to time, stress and anxiety. I know I've got my fair share, and pain and inflammation. All great products to help you out with it. And you support us, you can support us by supporting them. So head over to rogueshop.com right now and enjoy some really great products. Last but not least, head over to the wolfpacker.com, where after you go to rogueshop.com, head over to the wolfpacker.com. Take advantage of the special deal. $10 gets you premium subscription to the wolfpacker.com as part of the On3 network through the beginning of next college football season. So that's going to take you through the end of August 2023. It's just $10. Matt Carter and Ethan McDowell at the Wolfpack are insiders. They are grinding day in, day out, getting you the best NC State content in the game. So go support them. It's just $10. Come on, just pull out your wallet. You probably got a few bills in there. What's a 10? Go to the wolfpacker.com. They're not going to accept cash because it is online. You're going to have to pull out your credit card. But $10. Come on. Your DoorDash costs much more than that. You can get 3 gallons of gas, and that's going to be more expensive than a subscription to the wolfpacker.com for the better part of a year. So go do it now. Wolfpacker.com. Take advantage of the deal. $10. through the beginning of next college football season. Follow us on social media at the Wolfpacker on Twitter. You can follow me personally at Justin H. Will on Twitter, and like us on Facebook, NC State Wolfpack on the wolfpacker.com. That's going to do it for this podcast. Good luck to the Wolfpack on Saturday hosting Wake Forest. For Matt Carter, this is Justin Williams, and this has been the Wolfpacker Podcast.